That's Jungle Boy. You need to check out All Elite.
We are the Lucha Brothers, and you listen All Elite Podcast.
You know why?
Hey, this is Cole Cabana. Check out the All Elite Podcast. All Elite. All Elite.
This is Sammy Guevara, the best ever. And you, yes you, need to go check out All Elite Podcast.
Myself, the man with the huge effort arms, Brian Cage. You're watching the All Elite Podcast. Who better?
Welcome back, All Elite family, to another exciting edition of the All Elite Podcast. As always, I'm your host, All Elite Andy, and I'm joined by my boy, Big Match AJ, and it is a wild week for AEW. It is very busy.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting stuff happened last week, a lot of fun stuff going on this week. I think there's some rumors coming out that we won Wednesday nights. So
we won. We did it. You and me, Andrew, we did this.
It's a rumor, brother, but yeah, they're saying NXT might pop up on Tuesdays, and I'm excited about that, not even for the sense of competition.
Yeah, because I get to watch NXT.
Exactly, 100% with you there. So it's pretty cool. It's a fun thing for AEW, definitely to hang their hat on early. If you wanted to consider this a promotional battle at all, promotional war, a wrestling war, then AEW won Wednesday nights, and that has yet to be officially confirmed, but the social media handle that had reported that has a history of reporting some stuff correctly, so we'll have to wait and see.
Meltzer also commented on it, saying like it was talked about heavily in the quarter hearings, but it's not something they determined yet.
Yeah, so it's something we definitely don't know for sure. But again, I'm not even so much on the side of, oh, it's awesome we won. It's more awesome that I could watch both of these shows each week. I'm excited about that. Yeah. But it is pretty cool, pretty freaking sweet for AEW that they're able to show WWE, haha, you weren't able to run us into the ground the way you tried to. So, So that's cool. Very good news. How you doing, AJ?
I'm doing good. I got a thing with an art gallery coming up. That'll be fun. And everything's been copacetic. How are you, Andrew?
Nice. I'm doing good. I'm chilling. It's been a busy week outside of AEW stuff, but AEW's been busy, so that's been cool too. So, yeah, I've been good. Just keeping myself busy, keeping myself entertained. Let's talk about, I was busy on Sunday night watching this AEW women's tournament. They were able to determine some of the finalists on Sunday when Rio defeated Yuka Sakazaki to secure a spot in the finals. And then the upset of the weekend, Thunder Rosa picking up a win over Rio to advance in the U.S. Portion of the finals, the semifinals for the overall tournament. Set to go up against Nyla Rose, which occurred last night on YouTube, which was pretty cool. Nyla Rose picking up the victory over Thunder Rosa, so anyone who might have thought that Rosa would ride that steam off of a Rio victory, not happening here.
Which is a little weird to me, because if we're doing this tournament to give Nyla a win, which is, we'll get to that. But if you're doing that, why not have her beat Rio in the semifinal? That seems like a weird pick.
I think they're just saving that. They're saving that matchup. They're saving that victory for Nyla because it is a pretty significant victory to defeat Rio. So I agree with you, though, that I was a bit confused about the booking pattern there, especially with Thunder Rosa picking up the win over Rio. I was pretty surprised by it. It makes sense. You want to do something surprising, especially on that Sunday night show. I don't know how successful the Sunday night show was. There were some issues with the streaming. Tony Khan had to get it put up on YouTube, so that was
it was like international streaming stuff,
Which, of course, doesn't affect us being stateside, but, it sucks for the international fans who were promised a product and were unable to get it. So,
it sucks. It was cool for me that it worked so easily because it was easier than BR Live. But other than that, I don't really care. I feel like they should have just done YouTube anyways. But whatever, it doesn't really matter. Who cares? Bleacher Report, I get it. It's a big site, but I don't think people are gonna, except for AEW fans, are gonna be tuned in when it's happening. Except for nobody's gonna go to Bleacher Report it's 7:00. Nobody's doing that.
Well, and I think a big part of it is just to have proof in numbers. You can show good data from people tuning into that show and other shows on the YouTube and stuff. And that's kind of what I think. I saw someone mention this on social media this week, and it kind of rung a bell for me. I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. They've been doing this women's tournament on Mondays, kind of to get people programmed to jump on YouTube and watch AEW on Mondays. So that's a really smart thing, I think, there.
That is smart. Now that you mention it, yeah.
Then we also saw Moxley retain his U.S. title against Kenta on New Japan Strong. I didn't actually catch the match, so let us know. What did you think, AJ?
I liked it a lot. It was very heavy hitting. They did it was kind of like the Moxley title matches in a way, where they kind of were outside of the ring for a while, but I didn't mind it in this case because it's New Japan. New Japan just does kind of do that, so I don't care in New Japan. I care when in AEW when it's like, do we do that? But I guess they do, so whatever. Anyways, it was a really hard hitting match. They both gave it their all. Like really, like hard hitting is the best way I could describe this. They just like stiffed the hell out of each other for the whole match, and it was great. And really well done. Kenta, a lot of people were expecting Kenta to win, even though
count me
like,
in. Count me in with a lot of people who
like,
would have expected that. You know.
I didn't, because I was like, they're not gonna have him lose going into this title match at AEW. And like I'm thinking like, yeah, they'll let him use him, but they're not gonna have him like drop the bell if they're getting into this relationship and there's gonna be a huge AEW death match with Jon Moxley. Even the New Japan guys will be like, well, if we can send somebody else to do it, then it doesn't really matter anyways. So, but like, people were expecting Kenta to go get it and bring it back.
I was with people, bro. I was with people because you're right. It has been gone a while. They've now sort of merged the IWGP World Heavyweight or the IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental titles. So you would think they would want the U.S. title there to have another secondary title. But I was surprised, to say the least, that Kenta didn't win. But you make sense in saying Moxley wouldn't likely lose this close to the pay-per-view. That makes a lot of sense. I don't think that there's that many people who are AEW fans tuned into that match that necessarily could affect it that much. But you make a really good point. And
like the articles saying Jon Moxley lost that everybody would inevitably see.
100%. And like I said, that's a really good point. Something I didn't necessarily take into consideration when I was thinking about that match. Something else I didn't take into consideration, and I should bring it up now. I have to walk back my Okada take, man. I'm gonna walk it back now. I don't think it's happening. I don't think we're hearing the coin drop because they're doing the New Japan Cup, and he has a match on like the day before the AEW pay-per-view. So it seems really unlikely that that's going to be a possibility, unfortunately.
Which is too bad, but you know what? I don't think it's impossible overall, but let's be honest, like, if anything, like, if Kenny wins and they're not going to do a thing with Impact, which they very well may do a thing with Impact, but even then, like, down the line, I feel like it's going to be Kenny going to Japan and fighting Kota Ibushi, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think as marks that I would feel very excited to hear Okada's theme song in AEW. That's kind of the only thought basis to that. There's really no storyline basis for that to happen, but I think that it could still be cool. I don't really know what's going on in New Japan to say who could or could not come over, but with Okada not currently being champion, it made some sense to me. But yeah, in seeing the New Japan Cup, seeing that he's wrestling on the 6th, I have to walk back my take. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm dead wrong and he still shows up. I still think something exciting will happen, but not Okada.
No, not Okada. But I do think Hangman's going to Japan. I do think Kenny's going to Japan because Hangman already alluded to it on Twitter, even though it might be a joke, whatever. But like he has ties with Tanahashi, that Tanahashi would take the poison out of him, which would be so perfect right now, given everything that's happened to Hangman these past like year and a half. Like, so it would be so great if he got with Tanahashi, because Tanahashi, as far as I know, isn't really doing a whole lot. He's like the neverweight champion, but like guys, the neverweight champion, which might take more of a starring role now that they did the world championship thing. Anyways, talking about too much about New Japan. I think that is the thing that's going to happen. Other than that, I don't know. I expect something exciting is going to happen. I just don't think it's going to be a New Japan guy.
I think if we and to that point, I think if we see a New Japan type crossover, it's going to be the Guerrillas of Destiny getting involved in some way, maybe in that tag team battle royal.
That's for sure a possibility.
We should mention that tag team battle royal. They've explained it now. It's essentially a Royal Rumble match with tag teams, which I think is freaking sweet. I think that they tried some stuff with the Casino Battle Royal in the past. It didn't necessarily work out. I think this could be their best bet at doing something innovative with a Battle Royal theme that isn't. It's kind of like it's been done before, but not been done before in this way. And having the teams enter individually in 90-second intervals, I think that's really cool. And then it still comes down to one winner. I like that. Like, all of that makes a lot of sense. It adds a little bit of a twist to everything we're used to seeing. So I'm excited. I'm honestly very excited for a Casino Battle Royal, which is the first I could say that.
Yeah. Well, no, the first time they announced the Casino Battle Royal, I would say I was excited for it because I didn't know what we were in for.
I would,
but I was skeptical.
I could say before that I had a feeling it wasn't going to be the best because they didn't necessarily have an idea of what it was, and we were talking about packs of wrestlers coming out, and it just doesn't, even on paper, that doesn't sound the best. When it's tag teams, you're used to those guys being together, coming out together, everything. It kind of just flows so well that I think it's gonna end off really perfect. Let's talk about Tony Khan. He won Promoter and Booker of the Year for Wrestling Observer newsletter. It's pretty cool. So that was cool. A very interesting thing. I mean, it's his first full year as a Booker and Promoter.
Yeah.
He was obviously very proud of it. It's a very cool thing. I think it makes sense, especially with the pandemic. It was a tough year for everyone, and Tony absolutely made the best of it. So.
Yeah, I think out of all the promotions, AEW tackled the pandemic probably the best, in my opinion. New Japan did well too, but like for a while they were just kind of shut down. Whereas that didn't really happen with AEW.
Yeah, and to WWE's credit, they did a
WWE also
decent
handled
job.
it. Yeah.
They did what they could. I appreciate the attempt with the boards and everything and the fans in the Thunderdome or whatever it's called, which is kind of funny because if you go back to our early episodes of the beginning of the pandemic, I was suggesting putting iPads with fans on it.
You were!
That's pretty close to what we ended up getting with these screens, so I think that they tried something. I kind of like it, but also it's very difficult. It's a difficult thing to make appealing. Especially with the piped in audio. So AEW did the best what they could, and they kind of had the perfect resources for it. So it makes sense Tony Khan won this award. Congratulations to him. And it makes sense why AEW is so popular when the booking and stuff is so consistently done well. So.
No, totally agreed.
We've talked about a couple of superstars missing the last couple of shows, and I didn't even realize Miro wasn't necessarily on the last couple of shows because they had some pre-taped stuff for him, but he had apparently missed the last couple of tapings, or the last round of tapings, I should say, because he was stuck in Nashville. This was when all the snow and all that situation was going on, holding people back. This also apparently is the reason we haven't seen Mark Quinn in a couple of weeks. We've talked about that a little bit. And he was apparently stuck in Texas. They mentioned that on Being the Elite, so I assume that's what it is. Matt Hardy said he's been stuck at the airport in Texas for the last week. He told him not to wait there, but it was a funny little bit. But yeah, these two missing out just because of some weather-related incidents.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense given what was happening.
Exactly. It's kind of strange now because 2 weeks later, the rest of the world has kind of warmed up a little bit. It's not freezing in Texas anymore. But yeah, for a good week and a half, 2 weeks, it was very cold in Texas. Shout out to all our Texas listeners. Hope y'all are doing well. I know that wasn't the fun time for y'all down there. But
now it's floods.
Jeez. It's tough, man. It's tough. So the weather is getting crazy. It's been a difficult time with wrestling the way it is now. I'm very used to so-and-so couldn't make it to the show tonight, which is hilarious coming from our gaming when we were kids and just didn't want to be a specific wrestler.
Yeah.
Say, oh, they couldn't make it to the show tonight. No, now, in real life, the card is definitely subject to change. It means it. It definitely means it. So, yeah, some interesting news. A lot of different stuff. Nothing too huge like the Big Show signing necessarily, but some interesting news. Something else I wanted to mention, Tony Khan tweeted out today there were a couple of wrestlers apparently involved in a charity event that also included Joey Ryan.
I saw those.
I just want to shout out Tony Khan for being a boss. He tweeted out that none of his people will work on a show if Joey Ryan's involved in it, which I think is cool. I think that also should shut down some of the rumors we've seen on social media the last week or so. I saw people hinting that Marty Scurll could join the company, people hinting that Enzo and Cass could join the company. I highly doubt it, especially when he takes a stand like this against Joey Ryan. So Tony Khan cares about people. He's very aware of what goes on social media and the internet and the dirt sheets and stuff. So and this makes that very clear. And he still offered to donate to the charity, but then had to question if the charity was even legit because it was just put together by Joey Ryan's company. So very strange stuff going on there. Not huge Joey Ryan fans on this podcast, so I thought that was pretty cool, worth noting. And it's worth noting, like, if you hear rumors about Tony Khan potentially signing just not great people, it's probably not true. I think that we'll get to know that more as wrestling, and it's probably a weird feeling for wrestling fans because in WWE, shitty people get hired and get jobs all the time. And kind of in wrestling in general, I don't want to act like
No,
WWE.
you're right. You're totally right. And wrestling in general, for sure.
Yeah, and so it might be a little different to see Tony Khan take this course of action. it's an interesting course of action to see, and I appreciate it. And I could end up being wrong at some point. Maybe Enzo or one of these guys pulls up into AEW. I just highly doubt it, based upon especially a stance like this, publicly stating, we're not working with Joey Ryan. So I think that's pretty cool of him. Let's go back to something we introduced last week, Facebook Hot Takes. I like this segment. We got some interesting stuff I saw on Facebook on the AEW
One
Facebook
of these you
groups
just
this week.
picked for me.
I definitely did. And that's the first one. That's from Devendra. She said, I may be the only one thinking this, but I think Shawn Spears should be champion. Many may not agree. They should just make him meaner and let him cause havoc. The guy you love to hate. I mean, I already love to hate him, so you got me there. AJ.
Devendra, you're absolutely right. Because there is a conspiracy with this so-called good boy, Tony Khan, who only hires good people. He hates Shawn Spears. He hired him because he's Cody's friend and didn't even give him a real chance. He gave him one shot with Cody.
The first
he was
big
like,
Cody
I
Rhodes
didn't like it.
storyline.
And then he was like, Shawn Spears goes on dark. That's what happened.
Spears makes a good heel. I'll say that much, because he's definitely someone that I just don't really care for. I wonder what the story is here. Some people have been alluding that he might make an appearance with FTR and Tully Blanchard tonight.
He should,
because with the whole, or not tonight, tomorrow night, with the whole Jurassic Express thing, and sort of start a 4 horsemen, if you will. He's been off TV for the whole year, I think, since the beginning of the year. And who knows what the reasoning is? Maybe it's like a personal decision. Maybe it could be anything. So I hope he's doing well. I would like to see him on TV because he makes a good heel. I love seeing his record because I'm so blown away at someone I think is so garbage could possibly have such a good record. But I like that in him. Like I don't have a lot of good things to say about him, but I like that I dislike him so much. So he does a good job with it. And that's the point. Like he definitely just does a good job with it. The next one is from Josh. He had a bit of a question for people on the AEW Facebook pages. He said, so AEW is promoting a big debut at Revolution. Who do y'all think it is? And some of the funnier responses I saw were Stephen Amell, RVD, Ricky Steamboat, some Marty Skrull, which I already referenced why that's stupid, and a lot of big shows, which I thought was also stupid. Because I mean, we already know he's freaking signed, so it's not a big surprise at all. The biggest point was to mention some of the stupid suggestions and kind of get an idea who you think is going to be the big debut at Revolution, AJ.
Well, I was going to say, I think the suggestions are stupid because I don't think people have an idea of, like, who's a free agent right now. Like, an Evolve guys, maybe? I don't even know who was in Evolve, though, so I'm not really one to
Ethan Page is one that I've seen a lot of, and I don't love that.
That's not big enough.
I don't love that at all. He's like a step down from Brian Cage in terms of like notoriety and stuff. He's pretty talented. He's a good talent. I don't have a lot to say about him negatively outside of just his star power isn't necessarily there. I haven't seen a lot of him. I would love to be surprised by him because I don't have a whole lot of feeling for him.
I think he's a great wrestler. I think he's really good on the mic. I think he's funny. I just think he's not, like you said, star power, notoriety. That's not a big announcement. That's
I'll give him a chance though,
for sure give him a chance.
Well, and here's what I would love to see. I would love to see him make his like AEW debut by somehow they can book Josh Alexander and have them join the tag team battle royal, and then like even if it's just for a one-off to get Ethan on TV, because and the biggest reason I don't want this, I don't want him to be the sixth man in that ladder match because he doesn't have the hype to it for me. I do wonder who that sixth man could be, though. I feel like it will likely be him, which will kind of be a letdown to someone like me. But I know that there are internet wrestling fans who are big fans of him that will be very excited about it. And by the end of that match, I could have my perception changed a little bit. We'll have to see. It could be some huge name. We have just gone, I personally have gone on the record too many times with huge names that don't ever show up. I've said Brock Lesnar, I've said CM Punk enough times that those aren't going to happen. I guess RVD, because people might think that
would
because
be
it's
a good one,
match.
though. He was like an Impact guy, and like if he was just there for the ladder match, sure. But I don't want. I don't
want him to get hurt.
I love RVD, but like I don't think RVD is a good signing in 2021.
I understand also and like
unless you just want to use him like
On the
to help guys.
Yeah. On the base level of Marty Scurll, I get it. Like, you guys have been fans of this guy for a long time. If you research the stuff that he was involved with and the stuff in the past, you should totally understand why a business wouldn't want to attach themselves to this guy. It would have been cool in the past. The time for that has come and gone, especially as more stuff has come to light about stuff he's done in the past. And so it just kind of is a situation, like I said, with Tony Khan. We've mentioned Tesla a lot, so I get like, that's why I can understand some people not wanting to think about the negatives of this person or the negative connotation of this person. But you have to recognize, as a business, it's very clear Tony Khan is not bringing in these people that have these negative aspects to them. So I don't expect it. I think that I think we could be pleasantly surprised, because there could be a couple of names we've just forgotten about. There were a lot of people released from WWE last year.
Yeah.
Maybe one of those names just sort of hit under the radar this whole year. And
Like,
that's
I was
why I'm
thinking
not
Zack
digging.
Ryder, but I'm like, he's already been here. That doesn't work.
Dude, I would rather see Ethan Page than Zack Ryder. And
I'm just saying, like, as far as names,
he
that's the only
might
name
make
I can
sense
think
though
of.
with Cody and that and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. I think it was a good question from Josh. I just think that people had some horrible answers. Sonny said, Kenny Omega may be the greatest wrestler, but Mox is the king of pro wrestling. I kind of like this. I kind of agree with it to an extent. I think Mox was the king of pro wrestling for last year. I think he dominated 2020 in ways that we might not have anticipated, with everything being thrown at him. So what are you thinking, man?
Moose.
Oh, give me a fucking break. I love it. I love this new gimmick. This Moose gimmick is good.
It's not a
appreciate it.
gimmick. It's life.
He's the king of pro wrestling.
He's the alpha to the omega, and to that point, no, sir. Kenny Omega is the king of pro wrestling. I'm sorry.
Well, I think for going into this year, he definitely will have the run through this year. I think last year, like I said, Mox was the guy. I wouldn't say ever that he's the best wrestler.
Was his
but
year?
Yeah.
Sure. But like, to my end, if you call somebody the greatest wrestler, like the greatest wrestler right now, and if that's Kenny Omega or Kota Ibushi or whoever it is, that's the king to me. Anyways,
Good point. Yeah, I could make arguments for why Mox was, but it would just sound silly, because you're right. If he's the best wrestler, he's currently the champion, he currently is involved in some of the best storylines, he's the king of pro wrestling. Sonny's just a big Mox fan, and I don't blame you, Sonny. I'm right there with you, but I'm a fan of both of these guys, so I think that AEW's in a great place at having these two guys be the two key parts of their roster right now, the 1A and 1B of AEW, so they're in a great position. That's all we got for Facebook Hot Takes this week. I'll find some good ones. I'm sure coming off the pay-per-view next week we'll have some good ones. Let's talk about Dark. They do not have as many matches lined up for this week. Only 14. I know that's still a lot, but it's not the typical 16, 18, or 20. We usually do Dark Sleeper Picks of the Week. I hope AJ has one lined up, but here's mine. We got Lee Johnson teaming up with Aaron Solo to take on Louis Vale and Chris Peaks. I don't really know who they're going up against, and that makes me stoked for my guys on the Nightmare family, because I want to see Aaron Solo pick up a victory. If you were tuned in with us last week, you know that I was hoping for the same thing, but as we went through the show, I recognized why he wouldn't win. This week, we don't have that worry. He's not up against someone who's going to face Jon Moxley next, so we're good. We're in a good position. He's going to pick up a win. Lee Johnson going to get another victory. Maybe they become somewhat of a tag team for the Nightmare family. This is good. Good for them. What are you thinking? What are you looking at with Dark, bro?
I'm looking at the card. I'm gonna say, shoot, man. I totally forgot. I'm sorry.
Abaddon's
You know
on.
what? There is one on
Abaddon's
there.
on.
Like, Abaddon's on, but SCU versus the Seidels.
Okay.
Redemption for the Seidels, because their first match did not go well. So maybe they can do something good here. And if it's against SCU, that's a real opponent. Like, I know that the Seidels are going to lose, but that's not the point.
I don't mind establishing the Seidels as a tag team either as we go into this battle royal, casino battle royal. I would love to see like quite a few teams involved in this if they can. If it's only like 7 or 8, I totally understand, because they have
Because you don't want it to be too long.
Yeah, you don't want it to be too long. You have a really strong 7 or 8. But if you could do a couple of surprises, also utilize maybe a team like this who's not necessarily the best but pretty decent, then I think it would be all right. Some other stuff I think that's interesting about Dark. Bear Country likely to pick up a tag team victory where they're not paired with Janela and Sonny Kiss. I don't necessarily exactly remember who they're facing, but no names means that Bear Country's going to win that one. No Nick Camarado this week. Hopefully
They're
he'll be
facing
back.
Mabadu and Baron Black.
Oh yeah, so those guys aren't necessarily no names. I'm glad you mentioned that because they've been on Dark a couple times, but those guys are not winners on Dark. Those guys are the guys who put over Bear Country on Dark, and that's what I'm expecting.
Gotcha.
Gun Club is in a 6-man tag, so I think that they're going to, kind of the same way as the Seidels, really establish the two Gun brothers as a tag team, which and utilizing their dad obviously in this matchup to continue establishing that, which makes sense because I'm familiar with Austin. I'm not familiar with the other one, so this is a good way to get us familiar with him. It's kind of like how they introduced Malachi back in the day. So yeah, Dark looks decent this week. I'm not gonna. Last week it was a lot of fun to watch. I had a great time watching it. I'm very excited for what they're doing with Dark Elevation because I don't even necessarily know what to expect with it, but I like getting introduced to new stars. And that's kind of why I feel like this one is almost a little weak, where they're waiting until next week to really give us a better card for Dark and Dark Elevation. I'm excited to see what they do next week and how they... Is Dark still going to be 14 matches? Is Dark Elevation going to be like 2 or 3 where we really get a lot of time to be introduced to these guys? So we'll see. I'm excited for it. I'm going to be tuned into Dark, especially for this Lee Johnson and Aaron Solo match later tonight. So let's talk about Dynamite. We've got a big one, a big Dynamite. This might be one of the bigger Dynamites they've had, primarily because we have Shaq involved in a match. So a lot of people might not love this. A lot of people might dislike it, and for good reason. Shaq, not a professional wrestler. Jade Cargill making her professional wrestling debut, I believe.
Yeah.
At least for AEW, definitely her debut. It's a tough spot, but I think it's going to still be a good show, and I think that Shaq obviously pulls in a lot of fans. It's a great position to book it right before the pay-per-view. Gets a lot of fans tuned in to see what's going on. So.
Yep. I think it's a great spot for it. Like you said, it just makes sense because you're going into this pay-per-view. You want the go-home show to be a big number, and Shaq couldn't provide you a big number. I assume. I don't know for sure, but I assume on TNT Shaq pulls a big number.
And that's exactly it. Like, Shaq may be on different channels. It's not necessarily a shoe. And I feel like Shaq on TNT, people who are usually surfing TNT or whatever, you see Shaq, you're going to see what's going on. They've done a great job at promoting this across different shows, different channels. They've got a bunch of stuff on YouTube about it. They've done their diligence with trying to make this a big deal without making it a big deal on the show. And I think that is the best thing that they've done. It's a big deal to the sports world. It's a big deal to outside media. But as far as on TV, it really hasn't been that important. And it didn't have to be because those people aren't tuned in every week, the casual fans, if you will. So, yeah, I think this is a good spot. I think it'll be interesting for Red Velvet. Cody mentioned in one of these little pressers they put out on YouTube that I watched on WrestleJoy. Shout out to those guys over at WrestleJoy. But Cody Rhodes, he said something about how Red Velvet isn't necessarily signed to a full-term contract with AEW.
Ooh.
It's like I don't remember the exact terminology he used for it, but it's kind of like their base level contract, just kind of in for a couple of shows and that's it. And he said that this is an opportunity for her to prove herself and really go further. I think that's really interesting. A whole other interesting part of this. So who knows?
That is interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah. So they've done a good job with that match. I'm not super stoked for it, but I am cautiously optimistic. It could be good. That's basically all I'll say. I don't know how bad it could be. As long as he's not jumping off the top like Snoop Dogg, I think we'll be all right.
No, it's gonna be Shaq. He's just gonna hit people real hard.
I know.
But he's gonna be like, "Oh, hit me, but don't break my face."
Yeah, fair enough. And who knows? Break his face. Bring back Dashing Cody Rhodes. Paul White will be making his AEW debut. I believe they've mentioned that as an official thing. So I don't know what he's going to do.
I thought they did.
I think he's just going to come out and speak and probably get interrupted by somebody.
Or he's going to save Cody from the Shaq attack.
That would be interesting, huh? You know?
Wouldn't it?
I don't think... No. I mean, I don't know, man. It would be something. I would be weird because I don't think that they're going to use Shaq a lot more going forward. So in that aspect, it makes no sense. I'm not of the population who wants to see this giant fight between Paul White and Shaq. I could see the reasoning for wanting that. It's just not for me. So who knows? His debut should be interesting. I anticipate him probably just getting bullied by somebody or something. So
yeah.
I would love to see if and I don't think this will happen, but it would be pretty cool if he comes out and then Sammy G is his partner in a type of Jericho, like for Sammy to be like, fuck you, I don't need you, Chris Jericho, I got the guy who carried you to a nice tag team run in WWE. It could be an interesting story.
Carried you to a nice tag team run.
That would
you
be...
guys got your own theme song, you did.
Yeah, dude. I think it could be a good story, but who knows? I just want to see Sammy back, to be honest. Maybe he'll be the sixth guy. Maybe it's just going to be the return of Sammy. I wouldn't be mad at that. Women's title eliminator tournament finals. We got Ryu Mizunami taking on Nyla Rose. We talked about this a little bit at the top. Who do you think is going to win this one, though?
Rio. I'm a believer, man. It's going to be Rio destroys everyone, the tournament.
This is a
Put her over hard.
I like this match a lot because I could not tell you at all. I think that you could make great cases for why either one should win. Like, why bother doing a Japanese half of the tournament if she's just not even going to win the match? On the other hand, why have Nyla Rose run through all of these different people if she's not going to win? There's so many different aspects to this that I think are very interesting. You know, do I necessarily want to see Nyla and Hikaru again? No, and that's just because I'm a big Hikaru Shida fan and don't want her to drop the title right away. So a loss to Nyla would bum me out, and that's kind of where I would expect.
I kind of don't want. You kind of sold me on it last night that I kind of don't want Nyla anymore. Because at first I was like, Nyla doing a run by winning the tournament, it sounds all right because it would try to make her look strong again. But like, that's so shitty to use the tournament for that. And there's a whole Japanese bracket and everything. It's like, what the fuck was the point?
And it helped rebuild her, but I feel like they kind of just had a struggle where they weren't keeping her as strong as they could have throughout the last year, that they wouldn't have even had to do something like this, is my biggest takeaway. So I feel like she kind of needs it. She kind of needs this tournament victory and then to win the title again, because that will establish her again as kind of the dominant force in the women's division. It just bums me out because I'm a big Hikaru Shida fan. I
don't want Hikaru to lose to her.
I'm glad that this finals is on Dynamite, and I apologize if you've listened to the podcast the last couple weeks and I've been wrong. I thought the finals was going to be at the pay-per-view, though. So I'm glad that this is the way it's being booked out and set up, because it makes way more sense to have the women's title match at the pay-per-view than the finals of the tournament. So, yeah, good stuff there. They're going to have Chris Jericho and MJF doing a bit of a Revolution press conference. I think this is a smart way to do something like this. They've tried to do press conferences in the past. They didn't really work out so well. Having Chris Jericho and MJF run it, though, could be really good.
Yeah. No, for sure. They're both witty, off-the-cuff guys. They can make this work.
Yeah, it should be very entertaining. And what's very interesting about their match for the pay-per-view is it doesn't necessarily have build for them between the Young Bucks outside of just the fact that the match has been booked, which I'm okay with. Like, not every match necessarily has to have a story, even title match, because sometimes you have contenders who just won a contendership or who have gotten up the rankings. They're number one. They might not hate the champion, but they're number one now, so they want to have a shot at the title, and they don't want to have that hate storyline or whatever built in. I don't think MJF and Jericho love the Bucks, and obviously last week they tried to kill the Young Bucks.
Yeah, they killed his dad.
So I can't say that they've done nothing, but it's still nice that there's not. It didn't have to be some huge, long, drawn-out storyline for this.
Dude,
this
like,
title
but
match.
like the Young Bucks are definitely gonna show up for sure, right?
Yeah, and their dad. And
And their dad.
Yeah, Papa Buck will be there, of course.
Papa Buck's gonna be with a bat and
He's
just be
gonna
like, get them, boys.
I wonder how much older Papa Buck is than Chris Jericho. You know, like
I would say older.
How
Like, I think
much though? Like how much? Like, is he older than Chris Jericho? Than Chris Jericho is older than us? Probably not, right? Yeah. See, they're pretty close. Like, they could have a match. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm alluding to. Papa Buck versus Chris Jericho. Make it happen. Dark Order taking on Matt Hardy, Private Party, and TH2. So the multi-man match I was expecting to happen at the pay-per-view is happening on Dynamite, which makes way more sense than what I was suggesting, especially as they had already booked the money match. Kind of would be stupid to turn that into a multi-man match.
Yeah.
So this is and this is perfect for Dynamite. I love when I feel like I'm watching New Japan style booking in AEW. I love the 8-man tags, the 10-man tags, stuff like this, because it gets a lot of people featured. It's never that important of a match, but it still continues a story. Like, I love the way it's done in New Japan, and the fact that we see it pretty consistently in AEW.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I am totally with you. I'm down for this match just because, like, it's pretty cool. Private Party, Matt Hardy, TH2 is like it Dark Order and Hangman, or no? Is it just Dark Order?
Yeah, Dark Order and Hangman.
Oh, okay. Then I'm really down with this match because like that sounds like like you said, the New Japan kind of road to whatever style. Um, they do these big 8-man tag matches with guys who are interlocked in storylines or matches, but like don't there's no the stakes aren't there yet, and so you just get a taste of it. I love that. I love that shit.
Yeah, dude, and Five is gonna be on there. He's gonna be on Dynamite. They were making fun of that on Being the Elite. They were like, "How the fuck is Five gonna be on Dynamite?" So that's cool, and they've done a good job again through this at introducing people you might not really care so much about, but through the story, I now genuinely care that Five is going to be on Dynamite because he was thrown through that table and everything last week. So they've done a good job there. One member of the Dark Order who will not be in that match because he's going to be trying to qualify for the Face of the Revolution ladder match is 10. He's taking on Max Caster. This is so confusing to me. This match is
weird.
confusing. I feel like I would not be shocked if someone like just is added to the match or something because I'm very confused.
No, yeah, it seems like a weird Max Caster and 10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I imagine 10 wins this. It makes sense that it's like I just haven't seen a lot of 10 since his injury and stuff. He's come back and had a couple of matches and done all right. I don't have anything against him. I just have no relationship to the guy. Even through being the Elite and stuff, I really haven't come to care much about him. That's not to say I don't care. And I only say all this because I'm pretty sure he's going to win. Like it makes no sense to have Max win. I mean, you can make it make sense because you don't want them to be in the tag team battle royal and lose. So I get that if that's the case, but meh.
But
I mean, I would be cool if I would be cool with it 100% if he's in the ladder match. I just definitely don't anticipate that to be the result. So
yeah.
FTR and Tully Blanchard taking on the Jurassic Express. I hope this gets like.
This is gonna be weird.
Yeah, you're right. 100%, it's gonna be weird with Tully being involved and maybe that's the idea. Maybe that's where we see Sean Spears get involved. Maybe last second Tully's like, gotcha, I got this guy. And it ends up being Sean. But yeah, I mean it should be fun, especially if we get to see Tully Blanchard beat up Marco Stunt. You can't be mad at that.
That would be pretty fun. I am excited that this match is happening. I do think it's going to be a cool match. Like when I was talking to you last night, I listed this match as one of the matches I am hyped for, because this is pretty cool. And they did service to it on Road 2, like building up Tully, being like, Tully is better than you on your best day, even now, and shit like that. And I was like, all right, like let's see how good Tully is, I guess. They really put over Tully, though.
Yeah, they did. They definitely put over Tully, which, again, who knows how that's going to play out, what they're going to do with that. It should be an interesting Dynamite. It's not necessarily a super stat card like we've talked about in the past, but it does have feels to be a great making of a solid like go-home show. And it's something that we necessarily haven't gotten yet from AEW leading into a pay-per-view is like a really strong Dynamite right before the pay-per-view. We've had, and it's not that any of them have ever been bad, it's just like we've had anticipation and had these feelings. If you've listened to the podcast for a long time, you've heard this 1,000 times where we're at the go-home show time. We're excited for a big, incredible night. I don't necessarily have that huge anticipation with Dynamite, but I feel like I could have that feeling coming out of it. I think they've got a really solid card, a lot of really interesting stuff planned. What is hard for me to get hype about this, honestly, is the fact that the pay-per-view is just fucking bananas.
Yeah, it's
Everything
pretty
I'm
goddamn
so stoked
crazy.
for. And that's why the build on this show should be great. And there's so many guys that aren't even involved on the pay-per-view yet, so I think it's very interesting. A lot of guys that I'm entertained in, so.
It's just the pay-per-view is so goddamn stacked, and there's an exploding barbed wire death match on it that it's just like nothing can live up to that. And I don't expect this show to box with God. I just expect it to be a good show.
And it's going to get a lot of eyes on it, like I said, from the Shaq thing and everything like that. So I think that they're in a good position going into the pay-per-view. Obviously, coming out of the pay-per-view is going to be great. I think that the ratings are going to keep getting in a better position. So who knows? Hopefully, it's knock on wood because it is March. We're a year past where everything was just getting really, really good and went crazy a year ago. So hopefully stuff can stay on the right path. But yeah, AEW's look great. Dynamite looks solid, especially leading into the pay-per-view. And I probably expect that to exceed my expectations just because I'm so excited for the pay-per-view. So yeah.
Yeah, man. This is a cool-ass show. I'm looking at the card and it seems like it's gonna be pretty fun. The only one I scratch my head out is 10 Max Caster, but even then, that could be a good match. I don't know.
I'm super intrigued by it though because of just what it is, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, what is this? Is it just gonna be a straight up singles? Who knows? So
Yeah.
I feel like there's more to it, and that will be where I might end up letting myself down, is like expecting more from that match, because I like more story wise, maybe not match wise, but just story wise, because on the surface it makes just absolutely no sense to me. So, but we got an exciting Dynamite to look forward to, much more exciting Sunday night to look forward to. I'm so pumped for the pay-per-view. We're going to be back on Thursday to discuss Dynamite results. We'll also be giving our predictions for the pay-per-view, talking about how excited we are for the pay-per-view, how pumped we are for all of the crazy stuff. I expect Dynamite to be great. Tune into Dark tonight if you guys have time. Catch a couple of those matches. Watch Lee Johnson and Aaron Solo hopefully pick up a victory. Bear freaking country pick up
I'll be
a
watching
victory.
Moose on Impact.
What a mark. What a freaking mark. All right, AJ, let them know where to find you so you can go get ready for Moose on Impact.
You can follow me on Twitter at AJ the Fitzy and on Instagram at AJ the Fitzy.
You guys can find the podcast, or well, you can find me on Twitter at Upstate Andrew. I'm on Instagram at Andrew Kazir. We're on Twitter at All Elite Podcast. We're on Instagram at All Elite Pod. Facebook, facebook.com/All Elite Pod. YouTube, youtube.com/All Elite Podcast. Make sure you guys check us out on all of those platforms. Give us a follow. Make sure you subscribe us. If you're on YouTube, smash that subscribe button, brother. We will be back on Thursday to discuss Dynamite and everything else. Until then, see ya.
Bye.